What I have on the table here are two Savage Monster Truck 1/8 scale. We have the XL, the new release XL 5.9, and we have the smaller sibling, the X 4.6, right? So I won't talk much about the bodies. You have seen reviews of the bodies on previous forums and on YouTube. You know, it's the new GT-6 lineup body. This is the XL version. It's longer, it has a crew cab. The paint scheme on this is very similar to the XL Flux. It's just that where you have orange on the XL Flux, it's black. Where you have black on the XL Nitro, you have orange on the XL Flux. It has the same decals, side mirrors. It has the hood vent simulator plastics on the front, has the roll cage, and they are all anchored on the inside with body clips. The body is very well painted, screen printed, if you will, and the thickness of them, the standard Lexan thick plastic. So won't talk much about that because you've already heard a lot of reviews on the design of the body. Same thing for the X, right? So underneath though, you don't get as much changes as you got on the GT-6 Flux from its previous version. What's been carried over on all GT-6 trucks though are these treads, Terex treads tires. They're all standard for all 4 GT-6 model. They are now HPI manufactured. They're very good compound rubber perspective. Personally, I feel that they are a little bit thin, but that's my opinion. My testing showed that they would hold up well on the Nitro and certain flux rain condition. But again, just to be honest, guys, I think that that rubber compound could be a little bit thicker, right? And that's just to handle the flux power from the front wheels diffing out because of the open diff, right? Again, that's for the flux. For the Nitro version, we should not have an issue there, okay? So moving the truck around, you will see our very familiar components from the previous model, which I'll grab out in a bit. The chassis, the TV plates are the same 3mm extended chassis that you get on the previous model. The bumpers were carried over from the GT-6. All 4 trucks have that. The shocks remain the same. The bulkheads remain the same. The battery box, our receiver box remain the same. The air filter remains the same. The transmission remains the same. Same 3-speed transmission. One difference so far I've seen is that coming stock on the gearing, we have 1747. Now that's the gearing that's standard on the X Nitros. From the X 4.6, all the version of the X 4.6, up to the GT-6 X, that gearing was 4717. It seemed like that's standard on the on the XL Nitro here. The previous version XL Nitros came with 5216, I think, which gave you more torque from the motor to the drivetrain. So here we have 4717. We still have a good tuned aluminum pipe with a long header. Again, that signifies more torque on the bottom end as opposed to the X that has a shorter header, higher RPMs, less torque. So heavier truck requires more torque on the bottom end. I'm not sure yet if okay, yes, we do have aluminum clutch shoes here. That's good. I think on the standard X, it's still a composite clutch shoe. Underneath, you get the same design. It's the same transmission as before, 3-speed. It still have that plastic 44 first gear in there. There are options out there to change if you have a bigger power motor on the truck. The The TVPs are same thickness, same design. The engine plate is the same thickness, same design as well. The biggest change, guys, on this is the engine. It's now standard with the Force rebranded HPI with a casted head. So this is F5.9, and if you were to get the fourth version of this, it would be the R36, I think, right? I noticed the battery, not the battery box, but the fuel tank, it's more translucent. You could actually see through it, as opposed to the previous design or previous trucks. It was more cloudy. I don't know if the plastic's different or the manufacturer is different on that, but it's something that would signify maybe it's thinner. I don't think it is. I've measured with my caliper. The thickness of the walls of the tank are the same. Okay, now I've also done a good comparison on what's different between this truck and previous version XL Nitros. I've also compared the drivetrain with the Savage Octane. Now, interestingly, what I found out was that the only difference actually are the turnbuckle size, or what we call the braces in the back, but turnbuckle in the front. The actual rod, the steel rod, on the Savage Octane, the 2014 XL Nitro, and this truck, I think they're 0.3 millimeters smaller than the previous 2010 Nitro. That's the only difference I've seen in the drivetrain. So knowing the Octane, it's very heavy truck, and those turnbuckles work well there, so I don't expect a problem to occur. And also the difference is regarding 209 is the steering servo. So the steering servo on the truck is the same one that's on the X, this guy. Personally, I think that servo is a little bit weak. Obviously, you could upgrade. I think those are 10 kgs. I would recommend 20 as a good, safe kilogram servo. But so far I've ran this servo in the Flux X, and it turns that truck pretty well. Having a lot of flip on the front because of the flux power, so maybe they will do fine on these Nitro trucks. But I did notice that the servo is 10 kg on these new XL GT-6 as opposed to 12 kg on the previous versions, right? What else do I want to talk about on this truck? Well, so far everything looks standard. It comes with the TF50 radio. Again, I won't talk much about this, but it's very simple radio, good RTR radio, I think. I've not ran this radio yet, so I cannot review it. The trigger seems pretty, I guess, on the soft side, in my opinion. But again, I don't have much experience with running RTR radios. I use Spectrum or my Futaba, which I've migrated all my trucks to. So, but it's a 2.4 gigahertz radio. The batteries compartment is a little bit different from the previous. You actually put the batteries in the trigger handle here. It has a good balance to it because all that weight is transferred longitudinally as opposed to it being on the bottom of the remote. The grip is pretty good. It has a rubber molded piece on there, so that's very comfortable. You could switch these from a left to a right hand by removing these screws in the back here of the radio, and switch over your steering knob. This has fail-safe for low battery, I think, which is very good. It has your standard bind button, steering, dual rate, trims for steering and trims for throttle, endpoint adjustments for all your channels, and you have reverse switches as well. So that's all you need. Now, what I'm gonna do is now I'm gonna remove the X from the table, and I'm gonna bring out something. Let's see what we have got behind me. Okay, I'm gonna bring out the 2014 model. So I'm gonna move this to the side. I'm gonna put it to the ground here. And I'm gonna take out this guy. This is the 2014 version. This was the last XL before HPI switched ownership. So this is the 2014 XL Nitro, okay? So you can see definitely the body is much different. It's more slender, it's less wide, right? It is a little bit longer on the back, right guys? It's a little bit longer, but it's not as wide. Well, I take that back. I was checking it against the X, my bad. It's the same size body, same length, but again, it's a little bit more slender on the sides, right? So let's get that out of the way, bring these over together. So yeah, it being the same vertical plates and chassis layout, the lengths, the wheelbase are the same. The tires, as you can see, are larger on the older version, the 2014 version. The biggest difference between the two trucks though, is the engine, right? So on this truck, we get the K5.9, was manufactured by Kingstar, that's no longer in business. This truck came with the same aluminum pipe. What I've noticed is that the new version does not have the HPI engraving on the pipe like the older version. I was told later on that would be offered later as a change to this release. Because personally, I do like to see the HPI on the side of the pipe. Not a big deal, but as I said before, the drivetrains are very similar. Very similar drivetrain. The buckle, the turnbuckles on the back, on the front, and the hinge, the captures on the rear are the same size as this model, right? Now let me get another one, the one that's previous to this guy here. Oh, here it is, right here. So this is probably most people's favorite, the blue body XL Nitro 5.9. I have a couple of these. So again, yeah. So this one is the first model. This guy was the first model made by Kingstar. So Kingstar made these. Kingstar made this. This is now made in HPI factory. So again, yeah. So these two trucks are kind of similar. The biggest difference are the eight small bore shocks, right? So everyone knows these. So yeah, so these shock shafts are actually 3 millimeters. These are 3.5. So again, these trucks are very similar because of the where they were made and the era, right? But coming over to the new 5.9, it has a forced engine as opposed to a Kingstar engine. The carburetor is your regular 2-needle carb with an 8.5 millimeter venturi opening. These two on my right, they came with up to a 9.5, I think, millimeter venturi. I've ran both these engines. Personally, what I've realized is the internals for the F5.9 is beefier. It's better quality from a manufacturing perspective, in my opinion. With the K5.9, you know the issue with the carburetor, not the carburetor, sorry, the carb, the 3-needle carb versus the 2-needle force carb. The 3-needle carb on the older version was always a problem for tuning. The O-rings would leak, so that carb is kind of notorious for having issues. The force-made engines are better designed from the carburetor perspective, and also how the fuel flows within the engine itself. I've done comparison where the volume underneath the piston for this design is larger than the K5.9. So this engine tends to run lean on top, right? Because it doesn't have enough flow area for that fuel to get up there into the combustion chamber, as opposed to the F5.9, right? So this will hold a better tune than the F5.9 will hold a better tune than the K5.9. I've already tested that. The truck comes also, with the new Rotostart V3, which is the same, I think, on the, let me see here. Well, the X version comes with a pull start. Pull start, X has pull start, force engine, and the XL has a rotor start, not a pull start on this guy. So far, everything I've seen on the truck has been an improvement over the previous model, right? Some could argue the plastics itself, were they sourced from a different supplier, if those would hold up. But so far, I've bashed the X-Flux and the plastics held up pretty well, right? So I don't foresee any issues, you guys having any issues with the durability of the plastics. HPI is always known for having good plastic composite on their trucks. So, so far, again, the only thing I've seen that's different between the previous versions and this XL Nitro F5.9 that's soon to be released are the size of the links, turnbuckles or links if you call them in the back, the engine, which is carburetor, the gearing. Again, we have 5216 on the previous version. It's a metal spur, and it's also comes standard with aluminum clutch shoes. The new version, the gearing is 5717. It still has the aluminum clutch shoes as well, right? The other difference was the servo. I think these older servos that came stock on the old X Nitro, the older Savages were high-tech servos, rebranded as HPI servos. I don't know who makes these, but they went from a 12 kg to a 10 kg. I'm sure they did testing with that decision, why they made that decision. But even the 12 from my bashing, it's not really enough. I go to 25 minimum. So with this truck comes parts, right? So now you will have parts for your engine. So for your older version XL, you have aluminum pipes being stocked now at HRP and all its components. Good thing I like with the new leadership at HPI is that the philosophy is put parts out and then RTR after. I think back in the day it was the other way around, and I've interviewed many hobby shops, especially when I would go on job trips internationally and even here in the States. I go to local hobby shops and I question them about HPI past and HPI now, and you know, how are they getting parts. What I found out was that everyone had the same complaint. HPI would launch RTRs without part support, you know. But this new leadership has taken a different stance where if you go on HRP, you will see a lot of parts available, right? And only 5 or 4 RTRs. Yes, because they flooded the supply chain with the parts. So when you get your truck and it's broken, You're not having to put your truck in the bin or on the shelf because you can't get parts. So that's a very good thing, and I've already seen the impact at the hobby stores, right? So again, all your parts will be at HRP. They are the sole distributor for the USA and Canada, I think. I don't know about the European side or other international locations, but HRP is where you go to get your HPI parts. I think they will have this up on their site, I think in a month or so for maybe pre-order, or you could go directly and order it. The price is not set from what I've known yet. I don't have that information. But so far, guys, I'm very excited about this release. I now have the full 4 family members of the Savage MT trucks. As you can see behind me, I have many cars. This is quarter of what I have. You don't want to see what's behind the camera. But yeah, so far I think I've covered it all, except, let's see here. I do have the orange version, right? I have the orange version. Again, so I have, I guess, all the Savage XLs, Nitro and Flux in my collection. I do have a brand new, I do have a brand new 2014 this guy in my storage location. So I do run this car. This is the one I run, but I have one for each of these cars. I have one that's on shelf and one that I run, right? So whatever review, guys, I give you, it's from real world testing, and not just, talking about something that I have on the shelf, right? So there we have this review of the Savage XL Nitro. Sorry, it was pretty quick. I have a big schedule ahead of me. I'm going to Europe for a trip, so I had to get this done early. This was the first take, right, on this video. But hopefully you have gotten all the information that would provide helpful to you when and if you do get this new Savage XL Nitro monster truck from HPI. Stay tuned.